joining us today. We're here every Monday at 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And we are located the studio here is located in Lower Lake, California. Positive Light Meditation Center is located in Kelseyville, California, which is about a half an hour from here. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, LCM TV, for having us today, too. You were listening to Beyond the Crescent Moon by Sam Houston, his CD. And I do have these available for sale at the center. If you're interested, you can give me an email or call me, and I'll be happy to get that to you. They are $10 a piece. Sam is a very talented musician and great meditation music and even just relaxation music. Saturday was, that was 2 days ago. I was at a friend's place up on top of a mountain, beautiful place. He was having a gathering of people. And he had Lama Norbu there. And Lama Norbu is from Tibet. And he was talking about unhappiness here in America. And he came from a very difficult childhood. Most people in Tibet went through the uprising and the takeover by China, and it wasn't pleasant. It was difficult. There were times when he was very cold, very hungry, didn't have a whole lot. There were times when he and his brother were in India with no food. He faced some very difficult and challenging times, but he was explaining that he didn't really feel unhappy. He didn't really feel unsatisfied. He felt fear at times. He felt hunger at times. But the general happiness was always with him until he came to America. And that was an interesting statement because he went on to explain a little about that, saying that in America, we have so much. We have so much that we expect. We take it for granted and we expect it to be there. Whether it's food, shelter, just the bare necessities of life are really, in America, we expect that. And we don't just expect it, we expect the best. And we expect to get it when we want it. And so because of that, because he said, I can get in my car and I can drive here and drive there. I can get a job and I can earn money and I can buy this and I can buy that. Become attached to things. You become attached to the expectation of always having those things. So when it becomes inconvenient, when you can't drive your car because you have a flat tire or you're out of gas or you don't have enough money to buy food, and you're used to having food in America, it becomes an unhappiness that he was not familiar with. But he started to understand Western culture and this deep need for finding peace that we have. And looking at it from his point of view, I could see how it was new to him when he got here. He didn't really understand what we were all talking about, how stressed we are, how we have no peace of mind, how things are so unsettling, and we make the drama in our mind. He was trying to get across the point to the group that we create our unhappiness. Because we're attached to having what we have, we're attached to the expectation. We create the unhappiness. If we look at the larger picture, we realize there's a lot of people that don't have what we have, and we should really be grateful, when in fact we act very much like spoiled children sometimes and become very difficult. And if you look at things and put them in perspective, we really are a very wealthy country. we have so much that we need to be grateful for. And some things are frustrating, but that's part of life. And I've been meditating and studying mindfulness and insight meditation for almost 26 years now. And there are days when I'm just fine. I can accept life on life's terms and just kind of roll along with it. And there's other days where I really see that the stress that I've created is really getting in my way. And I did that this morning. I woke up. There's an appraiser coming to the house. I didn't clean the house, I realized, because I had forgotten about it. I didn't prepare for the show. Not because I forgot about it, because I had something else prepared, but I wasn't really feeling prepared. So out of the stress that I created, I got very upset with my partner and said, you need to do this and you need to do that, and you never do this and you never do that. And I started catching myself acting in a way that I don't normally act. And I realized I'm being very ungrateful. I'm creating the drama that doesn't really exist. The appraiser really doesn't care if the house has been dusted or not. It always looks fairly nice, but we know our own houses and where the dust hides, and we let that bother us. These are little teeny things. These are little minute things that should not bother anybody, but they did. And I realized how it was creating my day and how I was allowing that to create my day. So it was good that I recognized it. It was good because I could take a step back and breathe and let it go and just kind of look at the situation and learn from it. I want to talk a little bit about mindfulness and Buddhism today. Most of the classes we teach at a Positive Light Meditation Center are based on the Buddhist principles, but they're not Buddhism. And a lot of people are confused about Buddhism. They think that Buddhism is a religion, a structured religion, and it's really not. It's more of a science of mind. On Monday nights, which is tonight at 7 o'clock, we hold a Monday night meditation group, and you're all welcome to come. 7 o'clock, and there's no cost. We're a nonprofit, so donations are welcome and appreciated. Tuesday nights we hold, the second Tuesday of every month we hold a 12 and Zen at 7 o'clock. And any information that you want can be found on the calendar page of the website, which is apositivelight.com. And my information for contacting me will be flashing up periodically throughout the show. But you can email me or call me if you have any questions or want to join any of our groups. As I said, we are a nonprofit, so if you have something to offer in education or in materials, and of course monetarily, we appreciate that. We're in the middle of expanding our gardens to grow more food for the food banks. So soil, knowledge, seeds, any organic fertilizer is always welcome. So as I said, I wanted to talk a little bit about Buddhism today, and I made some notes because I want to stay on track. And I tend to go off on personal stories sometimes because I want to be able to relate to you that I'm human, I make mistakes, I learn from them hopefully, and I want to pass those messages and what I've learned on to you. But I did make notes so I can stick with that. So what is Buddhism? Sometimes you'll hear about the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, and the Three Marks of Existence, for just to name a few. And I'm not going to go into the Eightfold Path today because it's rather involved, and I think we can do this in a series of Mondays. But today we're going to talk about the Three Marks of Existence and the Four Noble Truths. The Three Marks of Existence, what is that? Buddhism is described as a very pragmatic religion, but not religion in the Western sense. Um, we don't indulge in metaphysical speculation and causes. And there's no worship of a deity. And Buddha is not considered a god. Buddhism is a science of mind that takes a very straightforward look at the human condition. That's a very strong statement. And it sums up what Buddhism is. Taking a very straightforward look at our human condition. Nothing is based on wishful thinking. We don't pray for things. That's wishful thinking. Not to say that we're not positive in our thoughts, but wishful thinking can be unrealistic. Buddha's teachings are based on the way things are, the truth, not how we want them to be, but the truth of how they really are, and acceptance. And if we look at our life, we see that it's marked with frustration and pain. For example, let's say you go on a date, and a young woman goes on a date with a young man, and they have a good time. They go out to dinner, and they're having a nice conversation. And maybe the young girl goes home and thinks, "Well, I really like this person. He seemed to really like me. I'd like to build on that relationship. Maybe this could go somewhere further." So she might start thinking in her mind, "Well, next time when we meet, it'll be this way. We'll talk about this, and we'll talk about that, and we'll have a really good time, and he'll really enjoy me, and I'll really enjoy him." And then you do meet again, and maybe he's got a headache, or he doesn't feel good, and he snaps at you. Now, all of the things that you were looking forward to didn't happen. Now you're disappointed, and you might feel snubbed or hurt, and you might take that personally, when in fact it has nothing to do with you personally. It's a situation. It's a truth. We don't know what may have happened that day to that person. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe they're caught up in their own drama that they created in their mind. Doesn't matter. The truth is, the situation is what the situation is. And you can take it for what it is and just go with it. Or you can fight it and try to make it something it's not. And when you do that, you'll create your own disappointment. So when you're talking about the problem of looking at trying to control a situation and change it, everything's impermanent. Nothing will be continuous. This second and this second and this second are all gone. Everything's impermanent. Moods are impermanent. People are impermanent. Relationships can be impermanent. They definitely change through time. Even if you stay with the person, they change. The relationship evolves. It's not the way it was yesterday or the day before. It's impermanent. So, because it's impermanent, it's impossible to make a relationship in your mind that can be realistic. And the more you desire something to be a certain way, the more disappointed you're going to become. So if you keep trying to make things a certain way, you'll continue to be disappointed and unhappy. It's only when we embrace the idea that everything is impermanent and everything is out of our hands, and we completely accept constant change and abandon clinging to an outcome, that we feel any relief from our unhappiness. So until you let go of your expectations and your desire to cling to your expected outcome, you can pretty much count on being unhappy and disappointed. 3 things, pain, impermanence, and egolessness, are known as the 3 marks of existence. And if you look at that statement, the marks of existence being pain, impermanence, and egolessness, it's like Lama Norbu is saying, when we expect things, when we want things to turn out a certain way, we're pretty much setting ourselves up for disappointment. There's times when it's going to work out. When there's times that things are going to be exactly as we hoped they'd be. Maybe not exactly, but close. And we're satisfied with that. But if we expect it every time, we are going to be disappointed most of the time. And the Four Noble Truths, what is that? What are the Four Noble Truths? Well, the first sermon that Buddha preached when he became enlightened was the first noble truth, that life is frustrating and painful. That's a truth. I think we all know that life is frustrating and painful. And sometimes, in all honesty, it's downright miserable. Very difficult to deal with sometimes. And things may be fine with us at the moment, but when we look at the world around and we see sickness and war and children and famine, children going hungry and famine and hatred and terrorism, and you get kind of queasy when you think about it, because that's a little overwhelming, but it's real, and it's hard to look at. And even we're going to die someday. We're going to get old, and we're going to get sick, and we're going to die. That's not a pleasant thought. But it's the first noble truth, that life is frustrating and painful, that everything is impermanent. Once you can accept that, it makes it a little easier to move forward in your life. It's not easy to accept. The first noble truth is very difficult, because when you look at the fact that we are going to die, you think, oh, I don't talk about that. That's really negative. I don't want to hear that. Well, nobody really wants to have an entire conversation all day long about that, but it's a truth. It is a truth. And we need to accept it. It's also very difficult to look at the world situation, and that there are children going hungry, and that there are horrible things that happen. But it is a truth. And we need to accept that. Doesn't mean we need to dwell on it, but we do need to accept that. If you don't accept it, then you're going to be disappointed, because it's something that's going to pop up, because it's a truth. It does happen. The second noble truth is that suffering has a cause. We suffer because we're constantly struggling to survive. We're constantly trying to prove our existence. We may be extremely humble and self-deprecating, but even that is an attempt to define ourselves. So even trying to be humble is an attempt to define ourselves. And that can be a struggle. And that can cause suffering. When we're defined by our humility, the harder we struggle to establish ourselves and our relationships, the more painful our experience becomes. When we're trying to establish ourselves in our existence and our relationships, often what we're doing is we're projecting what we were told we should be, or what we feel we should be, or we're projecting what we want our relationships to be. But we're not being realistic. We're not dealing with the truth. And that is causing suffering. Sounds a little depressing so far. The first and second noble truths are all about the acceptance of suffering, and that we create that, and that life is not always in our control. Even if we don't create it, sometimes life can be difficult. But there's good news, because there's a third noble truth. And the third noble truth is that the cause of suffering can be ended. Yay! Our struggle to survive, our effort to prove ourselves and solidify our relationships is unnecessary. Let me read that again. Our struggle to survive, our effort to prove ourselves and solidify our relationships is unnecessary. We and the world can get along quite comfortably without all our unnecessary posturing. We could just simply be direct and straightforward people. dealing with the truth. We could form a simple relationship with our world and our coffee and our friends and family and our spouse, co-workers, pets. We do this by abandoning our expectations about how we think things should be. So the third noble truth, being the good news that we can stop the suffering, is fairly simple by abandoning our expectations about how we think things should be. Now, first of all, acceptance of the truth, which is that bad things happen, we die, we create drama that doesn't exist, we create suffering, and then accepting the fact that we created and we can let that go, and that we don't need to be attached to what we want things to be. It's nice to know that we can change from suffering to happiness. So the fourth noble truth is the way or the path to end the cause of suffering. How do you get there? It's called the path or the way. And the central theme of this is meditation. Meditation here means the practice of mindfulness or awareness. We practice being mindful of all the things that we used to torture ourselves with. We practice all the things we used to torture ourselves. We practice being mindful of all the things that we used to torture ourselves with. Now, looking at that, you're identifying your part in what you created in your mind that created the suffering. You're not judging, you're not beating yourself up, you're just looking at it, you're observing it. You're becoming aware of it, you're being mindful of it. And we become mindful by abandoning our expectations about the way we think things should be. And out of our mindfulness, we begin to develop awareness about the way things really are. And we begin to develop the insight that things are really quite simple. That we can handle ourselves and our relationships very well as soon as we stop being manipulative and complex. It sounds simple. I think habitually we've learned to manipulate. We've learned to get our way. We've learned that we have an expectation and we get very upset and disappointed when it doesn't work out our way, and we try even harder to get what we want. And the harder we try, the more we suffer if it's not a truth. Once you accept what the world really is, and that you give up that you can't control things, you give up that you can't make people be a certain way, you can't make life give you what you want. You kind of just got to take it as it comes. You got to accept what life is on life's terms. And once you do that, and you let go of all the frustration and the anger and the anxiety of wanting something that you can't have, or have an ending that isn't to be, once you let go of those things, you'll find that this weight is lifted and this beautiful world opens up to you, and you realize, I have everything I need. In this moment, I have everything I need. Right in this moment, sitting here at this table talking to you, I know I have everything I need in this moment. I can hope that other things happen, and there's nothing wrong with positive thinking. But when you are attached to an outcome, and you won't let anything else happen, you only allow that one outcome to happen in your mind, and it doesn't, you will suffer. You will be disappointed. You will be angry at people for not doing things your way. You'll be angry at yourself for not living up to your own expectations. So the Four Noble Truths is a really big deal. And learning to meditate and become mindful of our part in them, and become mindful of how we can change those things, is a really important step in our growth toward happiness and peace of mind. And it takes some work. Let's say you're 40 years old and you've never, oh yeah, I've always thought about meditation, and I hear it quite a bit. I need to do more meditation. And I think, well, okay, now's a good time to start. It's not that easy. It's difficult to start something that we're not habitually involved in, but we can start a new habit. And just taking 10 minutes, maybe even 5 minutes a day of just letting go and looking at the day, looking at what happened today, looking at a part of things, looking at what we expected and were disappointed in, and learning from that with no judgment and without beating yourself up. 5 minutes. Just give yourself that gift. Give yourself the gift of a vacation from life for 5 minutes. And just look at being quiet with no expectations, therefore no disappointments. And just look at what life is. And often practicing gratitude will help you bring things into perspective. I'm going to take a break for a few minutes now. You can listen to some more of Sam's music and maybe take this opportunity to take a couple of breaths and close your eyes and take a few minutes to just be grateful. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back. I hope you took a few minutes there to listen to that music, give yourself a break, and take a little mini vacation. And you don't really need to think about anything. It's nice to just not think about anything. But if you did, thoughts are what we are. We're people, and we're going to think. One of the um, things I hear most often in the meditation classes that I teach are, I don't know what to do with these thoughts. I can't make them stop. And I'm thinking, no, you can't make them stop. You're a person. And I say that, you're a person. You're going to have thoughts. There's nothing wrong with that. We really can't make them stop. But you can lessen them by not attaching to them, not dwelling on them. Just see the thought, identify it, and let it go. You might picture a stream going by and placing that thought on the stream like a leaf and watching it float away. But not letting yourself get involved with the thought. As they say, keep your front door and your back door open to thoughts, just don't serve them tea. So let them come and go. They are thoughts. You're a person, you're going to have them. But you can also kind of just blow them away. Meditation can do a lot of things. Mindfulness meditation, becoming mindful and aware of your thoughts, is an important thing, because when we identify the thinking, the patterns of thought that we're doing, we can look at the stress that it might be creating. And in letting those thoughts go, you're reducing your stress. And we are under a lot of stress everywhere in this world, not just in this country, but everywhere. It's a trying time, and if we get wrapped up in watching the news and getting really involved with things and having a relationship with those negative thoughts, it can cause a lot of stress. Letting those thoughts go, reminding yourself there's nothing you can do about certain things. As the only person you can control is yourself. And to let thoughts go while you're meditating. It can reduce your stress, and that can help your health. A lot of health issues are caused by stress. And it settles in the body, and it takes on an illness or disease. Mindfulness can make you more productive at work, because you're more mindful of the things you're doing. You're involved in your work instead of having your thoughts stray somewhere else. Mindful of driving, being more, how many times have we driven somewhere and not even realized, wow, I don't remember driving, but somehow I got home. You're on autopilot. You're not being mindful of your driving. You're caught up in thoughts. It can help, mindfulness can make you a better parent. It can make you a better partner to your spouse, because you're being involved with the person you're with and not with the thoughts that you're clinging to. You can have less hostility toward people that are difficult, because you're learning to let things go and realize that their difficulties are their difficulties, not yours. So mindfulness can be a tool for a lot of things. It's a very important tool. It's probably the number one tool in all meditation practices that I know of. And it can aid in depression. I know that therapists often recommend mindfulness meditation to their patients with depression, because cyclical thinking is a form of addiction. And when we have a problem or a trauma or something that's really upset us deeply, we tend to go over it and over it in our mind, and go over it and over it and over it. It doesn't, when you look at that process, it doesn't help anything. It doesn't make the situation better. It only makes us more stressed, because we're dwelling on something we have no control over. So learning mindfulness is an important tool in depression. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't think about things. I, we need to think about things. We need to analyze things sometimes and realize our part in them, what we could have done differently, what we might do differently next time, without getting attached to an outcome. There is a balancing act that goes on. When you're learning to detach from your desired outcome, it's hard to really get that. It's really hard to kind of grasp that because we're taught to go after goals in this country and in most countries, I think. Part of being a productive person is to have some kind of goal, but getting attached to the outcome is where the problem starts. So allowing things to unfold as they do while you're doing your best is the only thing you can do, and then practice letting the rest go. And meditation is a practice. And like anything else, you get better at it as you practice. In this country, mindfulness has turned into its own animal, so to speak. Western culture did not necessarily embrace all Four Noble Truths so much as they embraced the mindfulness aspect of that. Mindfulness is an important tool, and I will never say that it's not, but I will say that you can get more out of meditation and using mindfulness if you understand and practice the Four Noble Truths. So learning to meditate should not be a tool for avoidance. It shouldn't be a way of escaping. I think escapism in some ways and taking a mini vacation is fine. But when you're not dealing with things that you need to deal with to learn and grow, then you're just simply avoiding. And that's not healthy. Because whatever it is we're trying to avoid is still there. And it's not going to get any better. Sometimes we do need to deal with things. Mindfulness can help you with that insight. Once you learn how to use mindfulness meditation, you can gain insight into looking at how you act, how you think, your reactions with other people, your interreactions with other people. So, learning about the Four Noble Truths is part of learning about the truth of life. The truth that you can't always do what you want. The truth that sometimes things don't go the way you want them to. And accepting that. Acceptance is a big part of growth. It's part of learning how to move forward. If you get stuck wanting something and you can't move past that, you will be stuck wanting that. And you will be stuck in suffering. So you can use mindfulness to transform that suffering. You can use mindfulness to transform anger or sadness or feelings of loss and anxiety. Mindfulness can be used as a transformative tool to get from one point to another, past the suffering point that you're at, that you may be at. And it's simply looking at life as it truly is. What is the truth? Not what we want it to be, not what we insist on it being, but what it really is. If you're going to fight the truth and fight for what you want and you don't get it and you continue to bang your head against that wall, it's really not going to give. You're just going to get a headache. So accepting the truth is a lot easier. And then you can move on from there and try something different. So what is meditation? How do you start? Most of the time we hear that we need to start meditation with breathing. Let's start with breathing. What's this breathing thing all about? What's the big deal with that? What does it mean to follow your breath? What does it do for you? Well, your breath, whether you want to or not, you breathe, unless you're not alive, but we breathe. And so part of that is acceptance. Accept the fact that I breathe. Therefore I breathe. And quite a bit of this breathing thing is that it's a tool that you can use because it's always there. It's always with you. No matter where you go, you always have your breath. So why not use it to learn mindfulness? And what does following your breath mean? Well, in order to learn not to try to control things, we learn to follow the breath as it naturally enters and exits the body. But we do this by taking a long breath in and saying to ourselves, I am taking a long breath in, and exhaling, I am exhaling a long breath out. In doing that, you are becoming mindful of the breath. Mindful that it's entering your body, your lungs are expanding. Mindful of it exiting your body and relaxing your shoulders. Becoming mindful of your breath. It's a tool to teach mindfulness. And although you might be thinking that inhaling on purpose and exhaling on purpose is controlling your breath, each breath is different. So there's never a breath that's the same as the previous breath. And this helps create acceptance. Accepting the fact that this moment is different than this moment, it's different than this moment, and every breath is different than the previous and the one to come. Acceptance, that's acceptance of impermanence, acceptance. And learning to allow your body to breathe naturally without really forcing it, just letting your body breathe naturally, is learning to observe the breath, meaning standing back mentally and just watching the body breathe on its own. It helps you understand insight. So the breath can be used as a very important tool. It's always there for you when you need it. It's something that you can use to keep your mind on. It's something that you can teach yourself acceptance. Yes, I do breathe. Yes, I have the insight that my body breathes all on its own. Identifying thoughts as they come in while you're breathing is an insight. Letting those thoughts go as you're exhaling, perhaps, is an insight. And now you've become, because you've practiced those few things, you have become mindful of your breath. And now that you notice you are being mindful of your breath, you may notice that you haven't been thinking of other things. Of course, now that I mention it, you are. But prior to that, you weren't. So the breath is a very powerful tool. And it's simple. So learning to be aware of your breath is the first step in learning to be aware of your behavior. And learning acceptance of what is and what you can and what you can't control. Mindfulness meditation can help you with your behavior, whether it's, I would say my number one difficulty is I'm impatient. I'm very impatient. I know that. And I know that I have my other character defects as well. But the mindfulness has made me aware of where that comes from. It's made me aware of how I can change that behavior. A lot of people have an attitude of, well, you can take me as I am or don't take me at all, which is fine. But if you're not happy, if things are happening to you in your life that are causing suffering, and you're allowing yourself to get involved with those mentally, you can use mindfulness to separate from that and look at the truth of where your issues come from. Mindfulness can help the insights develop to your behavior. Now, your behavior isn't always a negative thing. We have a lot of positive things in our behavior too that we may want to develop. So learning about those as well is a really powerful thing to do. in our growth as people to become better people. I think we all want to become better people. I know I do. And I think we like ourselves better when we're at least trying to be better people. And we can't control others. We can only control ourselves. We can only control the way we react to people and not the way they act. So, acceptance of what is and how you choose to react and not react to the situations is a beginning of looking at the truth of life, one of the Four Noble Truths, looking at the truth of life. And acceptance for the truth, for what it is, and not for what we want it to be. And we learn to not be attached to the desired outcome of any situation, thus letting go of suffering. So when I talk about mindful meditation, I say things like, we have a Monday night meditation at 7 o'clock. It sounds like, wow, she's doing an hour of meditation, nice break. And it is. But there's a lot more to it. And it can become something very powerful that you get so used to using on a regular basis that you don't even know you're using it anymore. A new habit, a very powerful habit. So, again, when we begin to accept the truth in life and not react to it, we begin to understand how to let go of the imagined situation. What we created in our mind out of the desire, we've learned to let that go and just be with life, on life's terms. That's pretty powerful. And I know that some of the people I work with in recovery, one of the sayings they have is dealing with life on life's terms. And it's very difficult because we really want what we want. And we really want to control other people, places, and things. And it's very difficult when we get stuck on that and we really want that. And it's really not happening. And we really get disappointed. Learning mindfulness can help you let that go. It can also help you see that you're causing the suffering, that your attachment to that thinking is causing your suffering. So learning to blow those things away with your breath and letting those things go and looking at life for what it is. Very powerful stuff. Gratitude puts things in perspective. Because no matter how bad our life is, there's always someone that's got it worse. So there's a lot to be grateful for. When you're having a difficult day, really stop. Stop yourself and say, okay, I got to breathe and let go and look at what I do have. There's so much. And sometimes it's really hard to find when you're having a hard day. But mindfulness can help you remember those things a little bit quicker. And it can also help you let go of the stress a little bit quicker. It's a great new habit to pick up. I highly recommend it. And the power, the power of mindfulness can radically change our relationships and deepen our capacity for love, compassion, and forgiveness. Having a better relationship with the people we care about is a really important thing. Having a better relationship with the people we work with is very important. Sometimes we spend more time with the people at work than the people we choose to spend our life with. And so we're kind of stuck with that in a way. So we need to make the best of it. We need to find a way to deal with difficult people, difficult situations. And mindfulness is a wonderful tool that can be brought into that. And you can be mindful of working. You don't need to sit and close your eyes and breathe. You can be mindful of working. You can be mindful of what's bothering you. Why are you allowing it to bother you? What is it that you're trying to control in other people that you can't control and you need to accept? Mindfulness can help us see the insight of the truth of life. and accept it and be grateful and help us forgive others for being along the same difficult path that we're on. So I suggest if you don't come to our classes, then please try to find a meditation center in your area, and please be open to at least trying some mindfulness meditation. You might find that it makes a really huge difference in your life. And not just your life, everybody in it will notice a difference in you. They'll notice that you're calmer and happier and more at ease, and that is something people pick up on, and they become calmer and happier and more at ease. So again, give it a thought. If you'd like to come, tonight is Monday, 7 o'clock. We have our meditation. No cost. Donations are appreciated. We are a nonprofit. So thank you again for joining me today. We'll be back next Monday at 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. We are located in Kelseyville, California. My name is Joni Lane, and you can email me if you have any questions. Check out the website at apositivelight.com and find out more about us if you're interested. And I welcome phone calls as well. If I don't answer the phone, I will call you back. So thank you again, LCM TV, for having us today. Thank you, Sam, for letting us play your music. And we'll see you next week. Thank you.